It's Thanksgiving. Maybe you're waiting for dinner to start, or maybe you've already eaten dinner and you're plopped out on the couch, full, enjoying all that turkey and potatoes and stuffing digesting in your belly. Maybe you're thinking about taking off your belt or unbuckling your pants. And what you need right now is some good, spooky, disturbing stories to watch on television. Well, I got you. Let's talk about some more disturbing, true Thanksgiving stories. Byron David Smith is a 64-year-old retired security engineer, and he is responsible for a tragic and controversial shooting on Thanksgiving Day in 2012 in Little Falls, Minnesota. Here's what happened. Byron David Smith claims he'd been the victim of several burglaries at his home. On Thanksgiving Day, 2012, two teenagers, 18-year-old Halil Kiefer and her 17-year-old cousin, Nicholas Brady, broke into Smith's home. Smith was armed and waiting in his basement. And he shot the teenagers as they entered. He shot Kiefer multiple times, including after she had fallen down the stairs. He then shot Brady when he came down the stairs to see what had happened. Smith didn't immediately call the police. Instead, he dragged the bodies to another room, wrapped them in tarps, and the next day asked a neighbor to call a lawyer for him. Smith was arrested and charged with 2 counts of first-degree premeditated murder. His defense attorneys argued that he acted in self-defense and claimed he feared for his life because he believed the teenagers were armed. However, no weapons were found on the teenagers. The prosecution argued that Smith had planned the killings and that his actions went beyond self-defense. They pointed to audio recordings Smith had made of the shootings, which captured him making incriminating statements. Here is a recording of Smith prior to the teenagers breaking into the house, calling his neighbor and telling his neighbor he would like to speak to an attorney. You'll then hear a crash, which is Nick breaking into the house. I've removed the section of the audio where he shoots the teenagers. However, you can hear him immediately afterwards taunting and talking about shooting the teenagers.
In your left eye. Bruce, stop by tomorrow morning. No rush, but as soon as convenient. Can you do that? Yeah. Park to the north. 100 yards north of the corner, and walk in from the west. I realize I don't have an appointment, but I would like to see one of the lawyers here. Cute. I'm sure she thought she was a real pro. I feel a little bit safer. Not totally safe. I'm still shaking a bit, but a little bit safer. I left my house at 11:30. They were both dead by 1. I refuse to live in fear. I felt like I was cleaning up a mess. Worse than spilled food Worse than vomit, worse than shit.
The jury found Smith guilty on all charges, and he was sentenced to life in prison without parole. Now, this is a controversial case. This case sparked debate about the limits of self-defense and castle doctrine laws, which allow homeowners to use lethal force to protect their property. Some people believe that Smith was justified in his actions, while others believed he used excessive force and essentially executed the teenagers. The audio recordings Smith made were particularly disturbing and played a key role in his conviction. The Byron David Smith case is a tragic one because these two teenagers lost their lives and they had family. And they obviously shouldn't have been breaking into homes, but it turns out that Mr. Smith was a disturbed individual. What do you think about the Byron David Smith case? Let me know in the comments. Was it self-defense? Did he go too far? The ghost of Sarah Josepha Hale. Sarah Josepha Hale is the author of Mary Had a Little Lamb. She was a prominent writer, editor, and social advocate. She lived from 1788 until 1879. So her influence is particularly important in that this was before women were generally allowed to have a lot of influence in the public sphere. She is often called the godmother of Thanksgiving for her tireless campaign to make it a national holiday in the United States. Now, there are some ghost sightings believed to be of Sarah Josepha Hale in the New England area during Thanksgiving. I mean, maybe she's just enjoying the holiday that she worked so hard to make a holiday. I think her story is an important one, though, and the one that gets lost in a lot of Thanksgiving. I mean, she was one of the prominent advocates for making Thanksgiving a holiday, which, regardless of what you think about the holiday, you probably get some time off at least because of her. And really to make those kind of efforts in the public sphere like that as a woman in the early 1800s, it shows that she had an incredible amount of courage and, frankly, was an incredible woman. The Blount family bombing in Lake Worth, Texas. The Blount family bombing is an unsolved mystery that, despite years of investigation and even a wrongful conviction, is still unsolved. On Thanksgiving Day in 1985, a bomb hidden in a briefcase exploded, killing 3 members of the Blount family and leaving lasting scars on the survivors. The Blount family, Joe Blount, Susan Blount, and their children, Angela and Robert, as well as Joe's brother Carl and Carl's son Michael, were celebrating Thanksgiving at their mobile home in Lake Worth. After dinner, some family members went to a nearby convenience store. When they returned, they found a briefcase on their doorstep. 15-year-old Angela opened the briefcase, which triggered an explosion. Angela, her father Joe, and her cousin Michael were killed instantly. Police initially focused on Joe Blount's alleged involvement in drug dealing and theft, suspecting the bombing may be related to his illegal activities. In 1992, Michael Toney, a neighbor with a history of disputes with Joe Blount, was convicted of the crime based on questionable witness testimony and circumstantial evidence. he was sentenced to death. However, after years of appeals, Tony's conviction was overturned in 2009 due to prosecutorial misconduct. The prosecution committed a Brady violation, which means they withheld evidence that could have exonerated him. Despite the wrongful conviction and the continued investigation, the case remains officially unsolved. Now, one of the problems with this type of, prosecutorial misconduct is all that means is it allowed the person who was actually responsible for this to get away with it more. Since all this focus was on Tony, the person who was actually responsible, the evidence might not have been collected properly, the leads might not have been followed up on, and a lot of that stuff may be gone now. There are some theories that have come up about this case. Some speculate that the Blount family may not have been the intended target of the bomb, that they had a neighbor who was involved in illegal weapon sales, and perhaps the bomb was for him. Again, this is a lot of illegality going on in this little spot in Texas, right? There's no motive. People have wondered, was this a grudge? Is this revenge, etc.? This is a type of case that I think shocks everybody. When a bomb goes off like this and people are killed, it certainly is a lot more affecting to sort of everybody because of the shocking violence. And that, coupled with the fact that no one has ever been found to be responsible, makes this a disturbing Thanksgiving mystery. The disappearance of the Jameson family. On October 8th, 2009, the Jameson family, Bobby, Sherilyn, and their 6-year-old daughter Madison, vanished near Red Oak, Oklahoma. They had been reportedly looking to purchase a 40-acre plot of land in the remote rural area. The family's abandoned truck was discovered several days later in Latimer County. Inside the truck were their wallets, IDs, cell phones, $32,000 in cash, and their pet dog, who was still alive, albeit hungry and thirsty. This leads people to believe that the family had not planned to disappear. We can all breathe a sigh of relief that the dog's okay, right? A substantial search effort was launched involving numerous law enforcement agencies, but no trace of the family was found. 4 years later, around Thanksgiving time in November 2013, the skeletal remains of 2 adults and a child were discovered by hunters less than 3 miles from where the Jameson's truck had been abandoned. And these remains were later determined to belong to the Jameson family. Despite the recovery of their remains, the mystery of how they died and the circumstances leading to their disappearance are unsolved. The family's deaths are ruled as suspicious, but investigators are unable to determine a clear cause of death due to the condition of the remains. They were, decomposing for 4 years, so it's very difficult to make that sort of determination. There are several theories that have emerged regarding their disappearance, ranging from foul play by someone they knew, a possible unaliving, self-unaliving, and allegations of involvement in drug deals. However, none of these theories have led to any sort of conclusive resolution in this case, leaving the disappearance of the Jameson family a haunting mystery. The murder of John H. Woodruff. On Thanksgiving Day in 1919, John Woodruff, who was a game protector in New York, vanished while on patrol, and his case has never been solved. Here's what we know. As part of Woodruff's role as a game protector, he was responsible for enforcing hunting laws. He left his home to patrol the area, but he never returned. After he didn't return, search parties were organized, but they found no trace of Woodruff. Nearly 2 years after his disappearance, Woodruff's remains were discovered in a shallow grave near a creek bed. His skull had been fractured, indicating that he had been struck with a heavy object, possibly an axe, and his revolver and badge were missing. Because of the significant amount of time that had passed between his disappearance and the discovery of his remains, there is very little evidence to help investigators determine what happened to Woodruff. Woodruff's wife would reveal that he had received a threatening letter months before his disappearance, but he had destroyed it without disclosing its contents. There are some theories and speculation about what happened to Woodruff. First, Woodruff may have encountered some poachers or someone violating game laws and was killed during the confrontation. Seems plausible. It's also possible that someone held a personal grudge against Woodruff and sought revenge, either for his actions in his official capacity as a game protector or something in his personal life. And as always, there's a possibility that this was just a random act of violence. Woodruff's death was a loss to the community and a reminder of the dangers that are faced by people who protect natural resources. This is one of those cases that's particularly sad because Woodruff was just doing his job. And there's something particularly sad when people are just doing their job. You go to work, you're there, you do your job, and you go home and you want to spend time with your loved ones. And this guy went out to do his job and he never came home. The shooting of Kimberly Riley. On Thanksgiving Day in Tacoma, Washington, a senseless act of violence took the life of Kimberly Riley and a 5-year-old boy. Kimberly Riley was a 19-year-old student at the University of Washington, and she was attending Thanksgiving at the home of Joseph and Evangeline Britt in Tacoma. She was there with her boyfriend, Jeff Spencer, who knew the Britt family. Around 7:30 p.m., the families were enjoying their Thanksgiving meal, and an unknown individual fired multiple shots through the front window of the house. Kimberly Riley was struck twice in the chest and died at the scene. 5-year-old Jeremy, who was playing near the window, was also fatally shot. The Tacoma Police Department responded swiftly. However, their investigation was hampered from the start. There were no witnesses who could identify the shooter, and the motive behind the shooting is unclear. Police have explored several possible leads, including a theory that the shooting may have been connected to gang activity or a case of mistaken identity. However, there's no concrete evidence to support these theories. So, the case has gone cold, leaving the families of these victims without answers and the community concerned that there is a perpetrator still at large. There are renewed efforts to attempt to solve this case. In 2022, on the 20th anniversary of the shooting, the Tacoma Police Department assigned a new detective to the cold case, hoping to bring a fresh perspective, a fresh set of eyes, and start involving some advancements in forensic technology. So there's some hope that the renewed investigation may help bring closure to these families so they at least know what happened. And bring closure to the community. This is part of our continued spooky Thanksgiving content. There is a playlist called the Spooky Holidays playlist for you to, hit, and you can just run all the way through and watch all my spooky Thanksgiving, Christmas videos that are coming. Thank you very much for watching my video. Go ahead and follow me on Blue Sky and TikTok. My username is AKBrews. I am also on Twitter. You can follow me there at AKBrews. If there is a spooky story that you would like me to cover, go ahead and email me at thespooklawyer@gmail.com. Remember to subscribe to this YouTube channel, share these videos, like them, comment. Let me hear what you think about some of these spooky stories. I appreciate your support. Thank you for watching my video. And please, stay spooky.